How do people survive only working 40 hours a week? I make 20 per hour at my weekday job. This usually gives me about 600,700 after taxes. Rent is 1.4k. I usually make about 2.1k 2.3k from that job with about 700 left over. That's another 100 to my phone bill. Another 150,200 for groceries, etc. If I didn't have my weekend job, another 500 a week with everything I just listed. So another 1.7k 1.9k a month. I'd pretty much have nothing left over. In total I work about 55 hours a week, making between 3.5 3.9k a month. How do people survive, especially in entry-level jobs? Working for 700 a week? That's the neat part, you don't. By having a partner who also works and/or roommates. By being paycheck to paycheck and going into debt. Not much other options. So the real answer is, you don't. Not living in America helps a lot. I work 36 hours. Got universal healthcare and employee protection against frivolous firing. Not trying to rub things in, but my ancestors had to fight hard to get all that. You should fight too. Unionize. Elect those who will advance worker conditions instead of those that kowtow to shareholders. I make $23 an hour and still have to take on hosting shifts on the weekend. You can thank corporate greed for that. Boycott. I pull in $3,400 a month. Salaried. Rent is $1,098. One bedroom by myself. Utilities is about $60,100 give or take. Gas roughly $50 every week or two depending on travel. $75 for phone bill. I'm not good at keeping up with groceries, so I don't have a good estimate, unfortunately. And then my car insurance, I pay the whole sum each time it renews, so I don't have to worry about it each month. I also have my required apartment insurance bundled with the car insurance, so it's a bit cheaper overall. And then $60 every 3-ish months for dog food. $74 for my weekly doctor appointments until I hit my deductible. Which that part my doctor is very clever. I was comfortable paying the $74 weekly. So what she's doing is overcharging me until my deductible is met, and then the extra money I paid during that time is credited towards my copays for the rest of the year. Which means for a good chunk of the year I don't have to pay anything, freeing up a bit of extra money accordingly. So about 2k or so goes to expenses each month, leaving me with about 1k and some change. I think the problem most people run into is 1. Having to pay off debt like student loans, car loans, credit card debt, etc. and 2. The cost of living in wherever you're at. Obviously, if I lived somewhere like California, then what I make right now wouldn't be nearly enough to live on. If I had any debt, then it would also be much more challenging to live off that amount. And it can get expensive to move, so just packing up and moving elsewhere isn't always an easy or feasible option. There are definitely ways to manage finances to maximize efficiency and such. But I also know that when you're up against compounding debt, inflation, and spiraling cost of living, there's only so much someone can do. Not everybody makes the same income. There's different paying jobs. Some make so much they don't even need to work 40 hours, and some struggle to make ends meet despite working 60 hours a week. Honestly, bud, most people don't. Most folks either get into a higher paying job or split the bills with roommates or partners. It's not fair, but some of us just make more hourly. That's the only way. When I made 15 an hour, budgeting tips were BS. I simply didn't have enough money. Will working people tolerate this forever? Or will we ever overthrow the bastards murdering the working class? roommate or significant other. Sending you love and hugs. I worked 7 days a week for a year after law school. And it nearly killed me. Shit ain't right. I make $70K a year. I have missed more payments lately than I have in my entire life in the last 12 months simply because I can't afford them or have to wait and pay 2 months at a time. I'm scared for my credit, but luckily I own my car and home, so I'm hoping I won't need credit for anything until I can re-establish or get back ahead. That's not something someone who makes $70K a year in a cheap area of a cheap state should ever have to even consider. I am heartbroken. I steal food and clothing. I steal from work. I said this in another sub. You know, told the truth. And people called me horrible things. I work my ass off 60 hours a week. 2 jobs. My expenses are reasonable and I being crushed. Keep expenses low. Prepaid phone. Meal prep. Live with family or roommate with a close friend. Buy car cash. 20% of yearly salary. There are ways. But takes discipline. Save and invest if you can. I work at least 7 days every week. I think rent is a big factor. You're not wrong. It's a big problem. Your rent is taking up way too big a percentage of your full-time job's income. Is basically what it comes down to. Now I'm not sure what the situation is where you live, but in my case I pay about $1,200 and I make around $800 a week after taxes. This gives me a little more leeway, but still not a ton. If it's at all possible, I'd try to get a place with rent under $1,000. I know that may be next to impossible these days. BTW, what's your second job? An extra $500 a week is really good. Though obviously you shouldn't have to be doing it just to get by. This is a great question. Then they ridicule people who are homeless. I make more money now that I've obtained a grad degree and still need a roommate to live where I want to without going under. The days of solo living are pretty much a thing of the past. Hang in there, pal. I recently moved out of southern Maine where the rent was at $1,500 for the most basic apartment. Now we're in North Carolina where rent is absolutely affordable and so is everything else. This place is nice as hell. Everyone we meet is from points north and they all moved south for the same reason.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.